Hi, ArcFieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, February the 4th. A very active weather pattern for the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. It looks like it will bring multiple winter storms into the eastern part of the nation. We have to deal with one in the midweek time frame in the Mid-Atlantic region with an icy mess likely across the D.C. metro region into southeastern part of Pennsylvania tomorrow night into the early part of Thursday. Certainly looks like a very troublesome Thursday a.m. commute in places like D.C. and Philadelphia. Snow and sleet will probably dominate the scene up across New York City, so less of an ice buildup is expected up across New York City, but down across D.C., Philadelphia, looks like lots of sleet and freezing rain, maybe a period of snow at the onset later tomorrow into early tomorrow night, especially across areas of northern Maryland, southern Pennsylvania. Not a big deal. The real concern comes with the sleet and freezing rain in the overnight hours into the early morning hours on Thursday. We have kind of a repeat performance coming this weekend, probably from later Saturday into Sunday. Looks like the same sort of snow to sleet to freezing rain to plain rain scenario on the table for places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Again, that's from later Saturday into Sunday. And then I think an accumulating snow threat for much of the Mid-Atlantic region Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. That's still several days away, so obviously we will focus in on that later this week into the early part of next week. This is just a sampling of some of the model data for this coming event here in terms of total freezing rain accumulation by the time we get to midday on Thursday. And it is certainly sending a red flag that there could be some problems, especially across D.C. and into southeastern Pennsylvania. This is from a high-resolution version of the NAM model. Again, the total accumulated freezing rain by the time the system winds down midday on Thursday, as much as a quarter inch or more predicted here in the D.C. metro region. A little bit less so up across Philadelphia, you notice, in terms of total freezing rain, because there the sleet will last longer than in the D.C. metro region, and even less in terms of the total rainfall amounts, freezing rainfall amounts up across New York City, as their snow and sleet will tend to dominate the scene. But certainly an icy mess looks quite certain here for much of the D.C. metro region into the southeastern part of Pennsylvania. Again, primarily later on tomorrow night into early Thursday, setting the stage for a problematic Thursday a.m. commute. Well, we'll kind of do things a little different today. I want to look at some atmospheric soundings, which we rarely look at in these video discussions, but kind of to focus in on the difficulty in the prediction of snow versus sleet versus freezing rain in this midweek event here. But first I want to walk through last night's conventional version of the GFS, looking at these next 3 opportunities of winter storms in the Mid-Atlantic region specifically. Again, later tomorrow night into the day on Thursday, another system later Saturday into Sunday, and the potential exists for yet another system, let's say around Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Kind of a key player already has kind of passed through much of the Mid-Atlantic region. The cold frontal system moved in from the northwest to the southeast, and it's now pushing all the way through the southern Mid-Atlantic region, and colder air will really filter in during the day today. Temperatures have pretty much reached their highs in places like Philadelphia, New York City, and probably within the next hour or two in D.C. as well. The northwest wind on the backside of this front will start to kick up later on later on this morning into the midday and afternoon hours, and we'll really feel the influx of this fresh, cold, dry air overnight tonight into the day on Wednesday. But that is a key player here. We'll move forward here. It tends to set the stage for frozen precipitation from this next system Wednesday night into Thursday. Here we go into the midday on Tuesday and then into the overnight hours. And notice this high pressure area kind of sliding to the east. That is also an important player. We have the cold air that has penetrated a little bit farther south by the time we begin the day on Wednesday, and that cold air mass, that fresh, cold, dry air mass, is anchored by a pretty strong high pressure system early Wednesday into midday on Wednesday, centered at midday in the New York State area here. But again, pretty cold air mass here, kind of parked in the northeastern part of the nation. Now notice at this time, moisture starting to gather together over the Tennessee Valley. This is midday on a Wednesday. And then it pushes off to the north and east, and by later on tomorrow evening, precipitation will break out. There could be a little bit of snow at the onset here later on tomorrow afternoon, especially across southern Pennsylvania and northern Maryland. A little band of snow may precede the sleet and freezing rain that comes in the overnight hours. And here we are around midnight tomorrow night. The snow is represented by blue, the sleet in purple, and the freezing rain in pink here. This is by early Thursday morning. That finally changes to plain rain across the D.C. metro region, probably later in the morning on Thursday, certainly late morning or midday across Philadelphia. It'll get finally get above freezing, and then maybe by midday or early afternoon in New York City, and up to the north, snow all the way through New England. So that passes on by. Then we have very similar patterns setting up for the end of the week into the weekend, with another cold frontal system headed in this direction from northwest to southeast. By the time we get to Friday, it passes through on Friday. Similar to this midweek event, we have fresh, cold, dry air pushing into the northeastern states by the early part of the upcoming weekend, and then off to the south and west. Moisture gathers over the Ohio Valley in this particular system and pushes north and east, reaching the Mid-Atlantic region, again with the possibility of snow, sleet, freezing rain from later Saturday into Saturday night, and ultimately, just like this system, ends up as plain rain by the time we get to early Sunday morning here. But again, there could be some ice buildup before that change over to plain rain, in this case by early Sunday morning. Happens to be Super Bowl Sunday. That then moves on by. Another cold air mass pushes into the northeastern states, and then we'll have a third system to deal with probably in the Tuesday to Wednesday time frame of next week, and that system will tend to take a more of a southern route. This could change. It's still several days away, but here we are by midday on Tuesday, and this may be a little bit too fast, this particular model run. We'll see as things evolve over the upcoming weekend, and then it moves off to the north and east. But certainly that can be a accumulating snow event in much of the Mid-Atlantic region, again Tuesday into Wednesday, and sleet and freezing rain could also be a part of this mix as well. Again, that's Tuesday into Wednesday, so a very active, ongoing active weather pattern for the next few weeks. Well, I wanted to take a look at some atmospheric soundings. These really depict well where a thin layer of warmer air, above freezing air, can change snow into sleet and freezing rain. And that is certainly the setup here for the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia tomorrow night into early Thursday. This is the forecast map by the Zero-Z GFS model run for around midnight tomorrow night. And if we click on here, we can get a sounding, and I want to show in particular what I will be focused on, and we'll kind of focus more on this during the day on Wednesday. But here we are looking at what is typically referred to as a vertical profile. These come from radiuson balloons that are launched from the ground and then record the temperatures and humidity as that balloon progresses up through the atmosphere. And here is the surface level right here. Again, this is around midnight tomorrow night around the DC metro region. Surface temperatures right around 32. The red line here represents the temperature profile going up in altitude here from the surface into the upper part of the atmosphere. This dashed line right here is the freezing line, the 0 degree line, 0 degree Celsius line. And notice already a little bit of a thin layer of warmer than freezing air right here. This is around what we call the 800, 700 millibar area. This thin layer of above freezing air, that may be enough just to result in sleet rather than snow with this thin layer here. Again, this is around midnight tomorrow night. 850 millibars being around 5,000 feet above the surface, 700 millibars maybe 10,000 feet above the surface. So this is the difficulty in forecasting how thick this layer gets has an impact on whether it's snow, sleet, or freezing rain. And when you have surface temperatures still at or below freezing, if you have rain, it will freeze upon hitting the ground level here, and certainly that's what's in store for later on tomorrow night. Let's go out a little bit farther to the north and east, up across southeastern Pennsylvania at the same time. Now notice here, all areas in the atmosphere are at or below freezing. Again, this is the freezing line as you move up in altitude, all below freezing. So anything that falls as late as midnight tomorrow night up across southeastern Pennsylvania should be in the form of snow. Now, let's go out another 6 hours all the way to 7 a.m. on Thursday morning, and we'll check out the sounding here across the D.C. metro region, again, near the D.C. area. Notice this area is kind of thicker, so what may have been sleet earlier in the night, likely freezing rain at this time, and I say freezing rain because the surface temperature as of early Thursday morning still right around the freezing mark here. So with liquid rain dropping out of the sky perhaps Thursday morning, it still could freeze on some surfaces on Thursday morning. That's why the Thursday a.m. commute looks like a real mess in D.C. and Philadelphia. Now we'll go a little bit farther to the north and east, again to southeastern PA, and here we have just barely at or above the freezing mark, 5 or 10,000 feet above the surface. So that tells me could still be sleeting, let's say, early Thursday morning in and around the Philadelphia metro region, with surface temperatures certainly below freezing. So sleet could be for an extended period of time up across southeastern part of Pennsylvania. And then we'll go out a little bit farther in time, all the way out to midday on Thursday, across D.C., all areas above freezing, going up to well up in the atmosphere. Even down at the surface, we're seeing 38 degrees on this particular model run. Again, this is the atmospheric sounding produced by this particular 0Z run of the GFSO. Anything that falls late morning, midday in D.C., likely to be plain rain at that particular time. Now, let's take a look here across southeastern PA. Similar, rather thick layer here with above freezing temperatures by midday on Thursday. But I'll tell you what, the ground temperature is still hanging around freezing, and this is totally feasible to me because this cold, dense, dry air mass will be very reluctant to give up its ground later on tomorrow night into early, even mid-morning on Thursday, especially just to the north and west of Philly, those northern and western suburbs. It will be quite a grind to get above freezing, so maybe not until late morning or midday will it just be plain rain up across southeastern part of Pennsylvania. So again, the bottom line here, an icy mess coming with a combination of sleet and freezing rain tomorrow night into early Thursday across all of the D.C. metro region, much of southeastern Pennsylvania as well, all leading to travel issues on the Thursday morning commute. It may be more in the way of sleet across southeastern PA and more in the way of freezing rain across the D.C. metro region, of mostly snow and sleet up across New York City. So very active weather pattern. We'll, of course, kind of focus in on this midweek event on Wednesday. That's it for now. For ArcFieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.